Hi everyone, it's Daniel Lees and I am the host for the Recipe to Success podcast. We are a homegrown business podcast based here in the UAE, my home, Dubai. Before we get on to this week's guest, I've got two bits of important news, and that is the fact that the Recipe to Success podcast can now be found on Instagram. So please go give us a follow. Secondly, we have our first ever sponsor, and that is Suited and Booted. These guys come to your home and they are homemade tailors. They measure you up and they make absolutely amazing suits. I came across these guys over a year ago now, and I think up to date I have around 7 suits with them. And every time I wear something, I always, without fail, get a compliment. So go check them out on Instagram as well. Suited and Booted. They are now the Recipe to Success podcast new sponsors. This week's guest is a guy that I stumbled across when I walked into one of his restaurants. I soon, after a quick chat, came to realise that he's a really interesting character, and I can't wait to share it with you. This is James Kilcullen. He is the managing partner for One Kitchen, but he's got quite a typical Dubai story. He came here 6 years ago, lived to the absolute maximum, and then quickly came to realise that he couldn't really sustain that life, changed it around, and now he owns numerous brands and is a partner in other brands as well across the UAE, and genuinely is just a very inspiring guy to be around, because he's made all the mistakes that we make, but he's come back from them even stronger, and he's a great business person that I will now class as an advisor to me moving forward in the future. So anyways, I'm going to stop waffling on now, but before we go, again, thank you very much for the support. But if you haven't already, head over to our YouTube page, the Recipe to Success podcast, as well as the Spotify page, which is also the Recipe to Success podcast, and subscribe, follow, and share. So let's get straight into it. This week's podcast is with James Kilcullen. So tell me about you. You're obviously from Ireland.
Yes.
We might have to add some subtitles to this, just so.
Yeah, I've toned it down. Actually, I have.
Yeah.
Just because the camera has. It's not because it makes me nervous. It's just because to make it clear.
Yeah. But yeah, tell us about yourself. Where you from? Kind of you growing up, family life back in Ireland.
Yeah. So I grew up in Ireland. I did. Born and raised. I grew up in County Sligo, which is on the west coast of Ireland. Grew up on a farm, so country farming background. My parents still farm to today. Totally different from where we're sitting now in the middle of Dubai.
Yeah.
And as I went on in years, I definitely, at a young age, I had decided I wasn't going to be a farmer, or I wasn't going to get into the farming industry.
What was the reason for that, though?
It wasn't exciting enough.
Yeah.
You know, there's a certain people will get a thrill from going out in the morning and counting 20 cows when there should be 20 and feeling satisfied. For me, I was kind of hoping there was going to be 19. I'd have to go and find the 20th where they were.
Yeah.
So I always kind of knew that, it was going to be something else.
Yeah.
It was not because there's anything wrong with farming. Farming's fantastic. And sometimes I'm envious of the life that you can have, because you got no pressure if you're living off the land, essentially. So you are your own boss, and you don't have to answer any questions. You have to keep livestock alive.
Yeah.
What my ambitions were, so as I went through school, I kind of was vocal. I was loud, boisterous, and kind of it earmarked kind of a trend that maybe I could get into law. So I was actually, before getting into F&B up until the age of 16, I was actually looking at studying law. And in Ireland, we do the Irish Leaving Certificate, which is your exam before you go on to your third level, which is your university. So I did my Irish Leaving Certificate. And then you have to wait about 6 weeks before you get your results. You have your summer holidays. Yeah. So what I did was, at the age of 16, I finished my Irish Leaving Certificate. I had a summer. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to university. Fingers crossed I get my exam results, and study law. So I decided I'd go to London for the summer. So a 16-year-old, never lived outside of Ireland. outside of a farming background, moved to London, with the big shiny lights.
Yeah.
No parents around to watch what I'd be doing. Moved in, lived with my uncle. And within a week or so, I actually landed a job in a bar collecting glasses. So that was
Irishman, bar,
London, no stereotype. That's where F&B started.
Yeah.
Up until then, like my summer jobs in the past were always in rural Ireland. It was either working on the farm or else it was working with a local builder and doing general housekeeping for building sites.
Yeah.
So this was going to London with big ambitions to go back to Ireland and study. Had 6 weeks and landed a job in a bar.
Yeah.
Collecting glasses. So this was my entry into F&B.
Okay, and then what happened then?
So what happened then? We skip a few bits out. We don't say everything.
Oh, come on.
But no, London definitely, it opened up my eyes. It did. It kind of, it really brought a bit of streetwise to how I acted. Because obviously you're coming from a rural place where everyone knows everyone. You're coming to a big city where you don't know who lives next door to you. So London was great. I stayed with the first company I got a job with. I ended up staying with them for 5 years. And they were a company that, okay, so first of all, why I stayed 5 years. So, after the 6 weeks, so my leaving cert results came out.
Yeah.
I got my results, for what I wanted to do.
Passed or failed?
Passed, got them. So I had everything I needed. But I had a taste of freedom. And shiny lights.
Ooh, yeah.
So I told my parents I was going to take a year out.
And at that age as well,
Exactly.
You always say, right, if you knew what you knew now, then things would be a lot different.
Yes. So the big thing was, because I was 16, and which was generally young, and someone going into university was usually 17 going on 18. So I was a year, I started a bit earlier, maybe. So my parents said, yeah, listen, you know what? It's probably good. It's not knowing that I'd never come back. It was good. Take a year out. By the time then you go to university, you're a year older. You got a bit more, maybe streetwise, more sense, and you've explored the world a little bit, and then you can put your head down and study for the next X years.
Before you did your exam, before you left for London, like how was school? Did you do well at school? Did you get high grades?
So school was interesting. You know, it's I'm a firm believer that the schools and the classrooms are not keeping up with the world. The world is moving, and they're not somewhere where you can shine and where true potential is shown. But at the same time, the amount of people that are in the education system to make it individual would be a lot of work.
Yeah. But I think, just to kind of cut in then, like, I think now you look at a lot of the skills that you learn just off the cuff. Like, you know, I'm sure when you found starting businesses, there's so much stuff that you had to learn yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because you didn't have the finances to invest and you know, pay all these different companies to do it for you. So you just learn all these different things, like creating a website, you know, buying a domain name. Like before I'd started my podcast, I've never bought a domain name. And I was
you
like,
probably thought it was like,
how do I do this? Like,
yeah.
And you never think, like, where does that company buy their website from? But you know, it's very straightforward. You go research, but I think those are the practical skills that they don't teach you of, you know, and there's a lot of people that leave school and they won't know how to start their own businesses or how to think freely and come up with different ideas. Because, I mean, correct me if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was at school, you know, if you kind of thought outside the box, it wasn't really encouraged. It was like, no, this is what's on the blackboard or whiteboard, what it is now today, or screen, whatever they use, or computer. And you follow this and you learn this, and this is the way you learn. So when I left school and, you know, again, started in the F&B industry, that was when I really started to kind of develop as myself. But yeah, no, completely agree. Like, I think the education system really needs to develop and open its eyes to, you know, what's important really to kids when they leave school and if they want to, you know, focus on a career after school.
Yeah, schools are like, education system is not designed for entrepreneurial candidates or people that are going to be entrepreneurs or bring out strengths of an entrepreneurial person. they're designed to make sure that as we move forward in the world, that we have doctors, we have teachers, we have scientists, we have these people that do keep the world together and keep it running. Which is fundamental to the world to succeed. Like if you look at COVID-19 just alone, like if we didn't have all these experts and doctors, we'd be no matter how many entrepreneurs you'd have out there that be doing really well at business and turning over high margins and yields, nobody would understand how to get a vaccine. So there's
a healthy balance.
Yes, there is a balance in it, but there should be a way. I think at a young age you know the people, or you know yourself if you're going to be that person that's going to be a doctor, or if you're going to go and you're going to kind of stay outside the color, the shape.
I can concentrate at school, I'll be honest with you. Sitting down and learning in a classroom is just not me. I'm more of a hands-on kind of practical person that likes to do stuff to learn, you know. If I read a book, probably have to read the pages 10 times over just to remember what I was reading. But then you stick me in an environment when I'm doing something, I'll always remember how to kind of do it. But yeah, like you say, everyone is different. And yeah, I suppose it's a very useful point you made. But if I asked you what lesson you would cut from when you were at school, what would it have been?
They say you should never discuss religion and politics while drinking. So we're not drinking. So I would.
You got a glass of water there.
I would. Religion was something, but that was rural Ireland, so that's not globally really. But I suppose that is history in one sense. But what would I cut out? There's nothing that I would cut out, to be honest. There's not. What I would do is I would shift to where the focus is. So let's take, for example, mathematics. You sit children in a classroom and you get them to learn long formulas. You get them to learn, how to add and subtract and how to do everything without a calculator and pen and paper. Like, since I left school, I don't think I've ever taken a pen and paper and done one of them formulas. I probably can't even remember what they are, to be honest. Now, on the backhand of that, I am number savvy to an extent. I suppose I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I wasn't. But it's not that I know the formula. It's more about the skill set, the quality that I have behind that, rather than learning a long ass formula and putting that down on paper. They should be teaching Excel. I don't know, maybe they are.
I think now they are, but at the same time, there wasn't that much. I mean, I'm the same as you now, and I'm sure you'll know with business as well. Like, I mean, generating reports, there'll be reports that I'll like come across now where I have to do them, and you know, I'm 31, and this is the first time I've actually started to do this exercise. And you know, I remember being at school, and I remember when we just started getting the PCs with the massive screens, you know, like the ones that were literally as deep as this sofa. But the Excel and the Word and everything like that, you do 1 hour a week, for instance. But it should be more to make sure that, like you say, it's like you can't just do something once and then you're a master of it all. They should have really emphasised on that rather than double religious education. You know, you got 2 hours of like...
There was 2-3 hours of that there was.
And you're just like, how do I keep awake?
But also then there was also, and I forget what they called it, there was also a class where they would prep you for how to interview and how to go about getting a job. And that was, I for the love of it, I can't remember what it was called, but that was an hour a week. And it wasn't focused enough, because you can give some tools, but if they don't know, go out and use them, or they don't know how to get them to work, then they're no use to them. But back to the original, how was I at school? Similar to you explained yourself, focus wasn't there unless I was interested in it. It wasn't a fact that I couldn't focus. It was that I was quite boisterous and quite hard-headed in the way that if someone told me that, you know, you needed to learn this off by heart, and I had no interest or I seen no benefit, I probably didn't do it. Now, did it affect me? I still did okay. My grades were good. Teachers didn't always necessarily like me, but they couldn't complain overly about my performance at the same time.
Okay, so you left school with how many GCSEs?
So it's not GCSEs in Ireland. It's point system. Where I excelled in things that didn't contribute towards me doing law, but they gave me the points to enable me in the door. So I excelled in woodwork, in engineering, in technical drawing, in everything that that you wouldn't walk into a courtroom and say, from my experience of getting an A in woodwork, I deem this on.
Oh, that would have been brilliant. That would have been brilliant. If you'd have gone into being a lawyer and you're like fighting people's murder cases and stuff. You're like, I'm a specialist in woodwork, technical drawings, all the good stuff.
He wasn't hit with a 2x2. He was hit by a 3x3. You can clearly see that. But yeah, so when I say a point system, I don't. There's people that excelled in say English and foreign languages and maths and so on, and science that didn't achieve the overall points, but they probably have more, how would you go, educational behind education behind them in regards to them topics.
Yeah. Just before we go back to London, because I'm really interested from you not telling me certain parts of London. It was a really interesting story, but do you ever regret now not following that law kind of journey?
Sometimes I do. And the reason being is number one, I don't know what it would have been like. So I put it up as a picture of
lots of suits, whiskey, and money, I imagine.
Yeah, and that's why I was getting into it. So when I don't know, I look at it as being a pretty picture. So I paint a pretty picture of that route. Yeah. Now the route I went down, other people would look at it and say that's a pretty picture. You made the right decision. When I look back at it, I think about, say for example, COVID-19 hits. I'm all my fingers are in pies that have F&B. If I was a lawyer now, or in law, would I have been affected as much? I'd probably be dealing with a load of rent disputes cases.
You'd have been walking into this room going,
maybe. And then, but it's you never know. So do I look back and go, do I regret it? Do I regret my decisions? No. Do I look back and go, I wonder what would have happened? 100%.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's every decision you make.
Yeah.
When I walk out of this building and I go left or right, you could walk on 100 meters and go, I wonder if I had turned right,
I could have got there quicker. Yeah.
Or not even that. What would have happened? Would I have bumped into someone that I know from somewhere, or would I have seen something, or would something different have happened?
Yeah. So London, you stayed there. I assume you worked your way up from glass collector to...
Yeah.
You wasn't collecting glasses for 5 years.
I wasn't getting a badge of honor for glass collecting, no. If tomorrow morning I was given an option saying that you had to leave Dubai, would you go back to London? I'd probably say no. I'd probably go to another city after experiencing what you can do in Dubai and how Dubai is. Or maybe just because there's so many other cities out there that are the unknown, and I'd like to explore them. Yeah. And some of the factors are just the weather obviously makes a big factor. London can be very doom and gloomy. Safety levels,
really bad.
Yeah, Dubai obviously puts us on a false belief that big cities are safe, because Dubai is one of a kind. But like London, you got your wits about you all this time. Same as any other major city. Like even if you look at Ireland, you look at Dublin, crime rate is through the roof.
Yeah.
If I didn't experience Dubai, I think London would still be on top of my charts compared to some other cities I have travelled to.
So what did you do after the glass collecting?
So the glass collecting. So
how long did it go on for?
Not long, actually. I was a glass collector because I was 16 and that was the legal thing to do.
Yeah.
But lucky or unlucky, I'm not sure, I looked older than what I was. So it was literally a matter of days before I was put behind the bar serving alcohol, which was illegal. But because I looked the part, nobody was going to question that.
Because you had an uphill paper around you.
Yeah. I grew up with a facial hair, and they were like, anyone with facial hair like that wouldn't come out in public if they were that young.
Yeah.
So the glass collecting was title. Stayed with that company, as I say, for 5 years. Worked my way up within the first 18 months. So before I turned 18, I was actually managing a premises. By default, the manager left, and I was literally an assistant manager. It was a small location, and it was like, James, here's the keys, you look after it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Was it like a group of companies then, or was it like a single-owned pub?
Yeah, so it was a private company that had about 50 locations. And what they primarily done was they took on units that weren't performing very well, and they'd go in, they'd do some renovations, flip them over, get the sales, increase the sales, put some performances on, include food, and drive revenue up, and then sell the unit on.
Yeah. So were you involved in that whole process?
Towards the end, to an extent. So as I went on, it was mostly managing select units. It was, and then kind of having an overview, or maybe looking at which unit I would go into next, or what I would do with a unit if I was given it. It was my entry into F&B. It was definitely an exciting company to work for, and I learned a lot. It definitely was a roller coaster. It was. You were kind of given the keys, and you were told basically, we need to increase sales.
Yeah.
You know, get a DJ.
Yeah. But how do you do that? Because it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot easier said than done. And I suppose with the UK, the difference between I think here and the UK, it's a lot more difficult to drive a brand because you know the type of people that are here and the type of nationalities you've got. So in the UK, if you've got semi-decent food, I would say, and you can also correct me if I'm wrong on this, semi-decent food, looks nice inside, and serves alcohol, you can pretty much make some form of a success from it. But here is a slightly different demographic because, you know, there's probably 40% of the population which doesn't drink alcohol. But making it a success, how did you learn to make a failing venue then a success?
Well, I don't know if I made them successes, but I didn't get fired.
Did you increase the revenue though?
Yeah, I increased the revenue.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, there's different ways. If you own, say, one individual, or you own a brand and you want to grow it up, you'll grow it slow and steady. If you want to get into something and you want to increase the sales and you want to flip it fast and get someone else to come in and buy the future sales, what they believe they can do, you do it differently. You do it fast. So what you do is you put in your happy hours. You make the place look a bit cosmetically better, first of all, because most of them were run down and the previous landlords didn't have budgets anymore, and that's why they had to leave.
Yeah.
Or the owners of the leases. So just basically general cosmetic work, adding food in if it's not there, because, you know, most pubs in the UK are alcohol led mainly. But everyone that goes for a beverage also wants to eat at some point.
Yeah.
Or has family that doesn't drink and they rather eat. So including food, putting on activities, understanding your demographic and the needs of your people that are living in the area. So like some people, like say for example, I went through many pubs. Some pubs were in Irish communities, so you don't put a DJ in on a Friday night. You put in a band because that's Irish style. You don't. You adapt your menu. You have pubs that we used to take over, and you'd go in and the menu would be totally tailored for the wrong demographic for that area. You change the menu out and it becomes the talk of town, and you get people to come in. So they were the main little things. So it's I suppose one of the comments you made earlier, when you do it, you kind of look back and you go, that was easy. Well, it was hard, but it's easy now.
Yeah.
But it's the little things. The detail looks after the bigger. So if you just make the place look appealing, serve good quality food, understand the price point for the area, understand the offering that they want, understand the demographic in regards to entertainment, and you should be able to strive some sort of success out of a unit like that without putting yourself at too much risk.
Yeah. And that role that you had there, was that your only job in London and then you moved on from there?
Yes. So the whole entrepreneurial thing didn't really start until Dubai, and we'll come to that later. So
after London was Dubai?
Yes.
Okay. How did that come about?
So from this company I was working for 5 years, privately owned company, flipping bars, great fun, great everything, but you were never going to be the person on top.
You were someone else's slave, effectively.
Effectively. And nothing wrong with that. That's their business model. But I learned a lot, and I stayed 5 years because it was fun, it was exciting, it was very straightforward and honest people that I was working with. but there was limitations on where I was going to go. You weren't building an empire. It was take a unit, flip them, sell them. You weren't building them to something next level. So I was one unit I was in, and it kind of came to a point where the lease on that was being handed over, and it was being broken away, and we were kind of working out where I would go next and which location. And at that point, then I started looking for jobs.
Yeah.
So I was like, I came to London on the idea I was coming for 6 weeks. I was going to go back and study law, and now I'm in a small private company that flips bars for the last 5 years. So I was like, right, if I'm going to stay in F&B, I kind of need to make my footprint, and I'm not going to make it here. So I took not a complete U-turn, but I took a turn and I joined Nando's. So chicken and chips. So joined Nando's, great company. And what they did for me was everything that I had learned in the previous role, which was kind of like you learn as you go, and there was no guidance. There was no guidance, and there was no policies, procedures. It was like, you keep doing this. If everything works, fantastic. If something goes wrong,
change.
Why did you do it? So I took all that kind of streetwise sense and business knowledge, and looking at how you can flip something with nothing, and then went into Nando's, where everything had policies and procedures and was boxed off. It was. So now what you're going in, you're like, so you have an idea now. It's not like, oh, well, we can potentially look at doing that, or what's the ifs and buts. It's like, put something forward. Yeah. We can work that. So I went in, and I took a step down, because I went into Nando's. So I left the bar company as a general manager, I did, and I went into Nando's then as a deputy manager. So I took a pay drop. I took everything, but it was a decision that I knew that in the other company I wasn't going to be at that.
You knew in the long run that it's going to be beneficial, and I think that for a lot of people, it's such a big move, because when you get used to living a lifestyle of getting paid X amount and then going, right, okay, I'm going to have to sacrifice that to go. A lot of people will turn around and say, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And I suppose that will lead on to kind of like having your own businesses and stuff later on, because you don't promise yourself a salary when you start.
No, you don't.
But so you went into Nando's. Do you like Nando's now?
Yeah, I love Nando's. Nando's will always have a place in my heart. It's
but where's better, Dubai Nando's or UK?
So it's hard to say. It is
UK Nando's. I'll say it for you.
Yeah, you won't. It's not what it is. It's not. It's just food tastes different in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the freshness of the lettuce, the tomato. It's just the ways the bread or the chicken or whatever. Our food doesn't travel. In Ireland, we say Guinness doesn't travel well. Yeah. I think it's just food doesn't travel well in general.
Yeah.
So it tastes better in the UK.
Yeah.
But here it's good. They do a very good job. They do one of the first restaurants I ate in, actually, when I arrived here. When I arrived here, I knew no one. So I was put into a hotel, and I wandered out, and I wandered into Nando's in Al Barsha. I did. Not in Al Barsha. In Al Barsha, beside Mall of the Emirates.
The one that serves beer?
Yes, that's the one. But I didn't drink.
Okay.
Because I had so many horror stories I was afraid to. You remember when I came to Dubai, I was 24. Didn't know anyone.
You came 7 years ago?
6, where was I? 24. Yeah, 6. So I'm here 6 years.
Okay, yeah, same as me. As me. I wish I was as scared as you about drinking. It was like a party for me the first couple of years. But yeah, anyway, so sorry, I keep interrupting. So
no, it's alright.
But yeah, right, we've kind of fast forwarding. I really want to hear that story. But so Nando's, it was Nando's, and then anything else after that?
No, so Nando's. I was in Westfield, one of their flagships. So we were turning over a lot of chicken there. We were, and what happened was I didn't know anything about Dubai, to be honest. I was approached by a recruitment agency, and they were like, "We're looking for managers with high volume experience." And because I was in the restaurant I was in, it was one of the busiest Nando's in the UK. It was the busiest Nando's in the UK. And I ticked all the boxes: fast casual, high turnover, central location, mall, and no commitments, not married, no children, just easily pick up and drop off somewhere else. So that came about, and then I was given an offer. And I was like, this is okay. Then I was told it was tax free.
Was it a pay increase?
It was a pay increase.
Increase.
Yeah, it was an increase. But without that was a pay increase on gross, and then when you take the VAT or the taxes off, it was even a bigger pay increase. But did I know the cost of living in this country? And as you explained, there is a party side to Dubai that you can easily rack them credit cards up.
Yeah. So you moved here, and it's funny saying that, because although it's not taxed, like, I mean, I think it's getting better now. But when I first moved here, I was like, 6,000 dirhams a month for a room. Nah, I'll find somewhere half the price of that. And then I realised half the price of that was like sharing a room with 4 other people. And that was it. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go for that one. But so when did you come to Dubai?
So where did I come? So
when?
So 2000 and
2014.
2014. It was
Which
2000.
month?
It was 2014 in October.
Okay.
October 21st, 2014.
Yeah. I was August. You would have probably came out to some nicer weather than I did.
Yeah, I came out to cool weather.
Yeah, I walked out and I was like, I felt like someone had bitch slapped me with a sauna. And was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? It's 4 o'clock in the morning and it's like 50 degrees. But so you moved here, you started working for Al
Shaya.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which brand were you managing?
Shake Shack.
Shake Shack. Okay, wow.
Yeah. So that's why Nando's, fast casual, high volume, and Shake Shack had just opened a few locations already here, and they were already in a big expansion mode.
Dangerous to work for them.
Yeah, it wasn't. Like, listen,
I wasn't talking about danger in anything else apart from the sense that
just eating the food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I'm from my days as a chef, you know, when I first started, I had my first kitchen job when I was 14, but then when I finished that job, I went and worked for Pizza Hut. And mate, I would finish college, or I actually was still working at school when I had a job at Pizza Hut, funny enough. And I would get there on a Wednesday after school, and I would go and I'd eat pizza, and you'd eat pizza constantly to the point where now I hate Pizza Hut. But yeah, I used to just eat loads of pizza, and that's just dangerous. If I worked for Shake Shack, I'd probably be 8 times the size of what I am now. But how long did you kind of work with Shake Shack then? Did you do any collaboration with the because it came from the States, that brand? Yeah?
Yes.
So did you have to get flown out to the States?
No. So I wasn't part of the opening team. I was phase 2 in the UAE.
Okay.
So phase 1, they'd already opened, they'd done their launch, they'd done their international training, and now it was about scaling stores in the UAE.
Okay.
So landed here, was in Dubai I'll come back to the point where, so everyone had told me, the ways people talk in the UK, especially about countries they don't fully understand. So there's the good side where they say Ferraris and Porsches and beaches.
Yeah,
and
like we spoke about getting
Yes.
Rolex on the way through. Yeah.
And then there's the bad.
Doesn't happen.
There's the other side where they try to put the fear into you and go, if you're doing something wrong over there, the hand will come off you. You'll be getting a finger chopped off, which in reality happens in some GCC countries at that time.
Yeah. If you're Irish and you drink beer, that's a death penalty. You're like, oh no.
Yeah. Basically, that's what I was told. So it was like, James, you won't survive over there. You'll be back. So when I arrived here, I spent 4 weeks in Dubai. So I was bound for Abu Dhabi. So I spent 4 weeks in Dubai, and in them 4 weeks, I stayed, and to really put onto this, I stayed in a hotel in Al Barsha that the company had put me in, which was a dry hotel. So you couldn't have friends over, you couldn't have alcohol, you couldn't have anything in the hotel. It was literally, you had a hotel room and that was it. So that really drove it home again for me. I was like, okay, it's a serious thing over here. So I remember, seeing alcohol, but very, very afraid to tamper. Plus, in the first 4 weeks, it was literally just work, sleep, because you're trying to find out what's going on. You're trying to get your roots in. Then when I moved to Abu Dhabi, Abu Dhabi is different from Dubai. It's a little bit slower, it is, and it's more of a community city, it is. So I felt more comfortable, I did, to a certain level. And I hopped on Google, and I'd heard enough things about bars being okay, and I Googled Irish bar, and a bar called PG O'Reilly's popped up, and I was like, well, listen, I'll take a chance down and we'll see what's happening. I walked in there, and it's just a load of every type of nationality that you could imagine on a Thursday night, singing to the rafters. And I was like, I think it's okay to have a drink.
Yeah. So you just relaxed into the lifestyle, because it is like that. And I think that's, I think the lucky thing about Dubai is that whatever you want, it can give you. If you want a quiet, dry lifestyle, you can have that quiet lifestyle. If you want that, work hard, party on the weekend, you can have that lifestyle. If you want that, go and hike, go and do things on the weekend, go and see beautiful places, you can do that as well. If you want to go for a nice hotel stay, you can go and do that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you can do. So how long did you end up staying with Al Shire? Was Al Shire the only company you worked for, and then you started your own thing here, or?
Yeah. So how it went was I was with Al Shire for, you know how I count my years here? I count them by visa. So I'm like, I had one full term of visa, then I was on my second visa. So I stayed with them for about 3 years. I did 2.5 years, 2.5, 3 years. And what happened was, I was in Al Shire, I was Shake Shack, things were going good, and I couldn't complain, but I had at that point then developed a lifestyle that was probably above my my earnings.
Yeah.
So
that was actually something that we spoke about, wasn't it, previously, and that was something that I wanted to go on to. So you obviously lived way above your means.
Yes.
And what did that result in?
So that resulted in just debt. So that resulted in. So what did I racked up? Now there was a couple of things. So I invested into a new car. I advise everyone never buy a new car.
What car was it?
It was only a Honda Accord. So nothing fancy, run of the mill. I think 120,000, something like that. And that didn't work out too well. So
Why? It's a brand new car.
Yeah, it just didn't work out too well.
Sounds like a relationship. Like we dated for a few years, but she took me from all my money from me.
Yeah, basically that's what it did. So that racked up a little bit of debt. It didn't. It also kept the actual finance of the car there as well. And then I racked up a couple of credit cards as well. I did. And then you kind of realize, you're like, okay, the UAE lifestyle catches up quickly. So I had an option, right? I wasn't gone blowing out of means, but I was in a point where I kind of had to say, James, you need to decide you're going to fix this or you're not going to fix this, or what's going to happen. So it was either like, slow down and just start making bigger installments and pay things off and go quiet for a year, or earn more money and continue the lifestyle. So I decided that I wanted to earn more money. So I went and I started applying for jobs again. The people at that time I was working with we knew he was looking for jobs. And I came across, or this guy came across actually, a guy that had started Pokey Pokey. So I wasn't a founder of Pokey Pokey. So American guy that had founded Pokey Pokey with 2 other partners in the UAE. They opened their first restaurant on Jumeirah Beach Road, and they opened it on a hymn of loving poke bowls from their international travels. And what happened was the brand was an instant success, and they were unable to run the business. So they needed someone operationally. So he came and he spoke to me, found me on LinkedIn. He had this mentality that someone that can run a Shake Shack should be able to run his business. So he basically just typed into LinkedIn Shake Shack, and I was one of the people that appeared.
Wow.
So he got on a call. He was like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. Unknowing I was looking for something. He said, okay, when can I meet you? I said, whenever. He hopped in his car and he came to see me the next day. When I look back at it, every kind of red flag was there, but I was just looking, this guy's going to pay me more.
Yeah.
I had a guy that so he's no longer a partner in the business. I ended up actually buying him out. So he'd turn up, American guy, young guy, early 30s, ex-military. He'd turn up in a tank top, pair of shorts, and he was like, this restaurant's going to be a success. Come work and I'll pay you this. I was like, well, at least let me come and try the food. So the next day I hopped in my car. I went down, I came here to Dubai. I went to the restaurant. I tried the food and I was like, well, the food's actually really good. There's a load of people in the restaurant. Let's take a gamble. So I accepted that role, got into it. And as I say, every red flag was there. Small, there's nothing wrong with a small startup, but a small startup that was going to pay what he was, and I can say it, he was paying 25,000 dirhams a month. And I look back at that, and actually it was 25 with an upgrade to 30,000 after X amount of months, which kicked in. So it was essentially 30,000 a month. So 30,000 dirhams a month, big salary for one restaurant location. from a guy that turned up in a tank top and a pair of shorts.
Yeah.
You hear so many stories of people taking jobs.
American ex-military.
Yeah.
This goes on.
Hyped up.
Yeah.
But you know, the stories are, you know, because I was with Al Shaya. I was with a company that, you know, as long as I didn't, you know, do something completely wrong.
You could have been with them for a long time.
Yeah, you wouldn't lose your job. It's a safe job. You know, you do what you got to do, and you tick the boxes, and you just, it's a 9 to 5 essentially. So when I look back, the red flags were there. Like, you know, you hear so many people that take these big salary jobs, and after a couple of months, it's just like,
falls to pieces.
Yeah. And when I look back at it, all them red flags were there, and there was even a couple of points, like into the first few weeks, first few months, I was like, this isn't going to work out. I'm going to be jobless. Forget about me wanting to earn more money to pay off debt. Now I'm going to have zero income, but the debt will still be there. So, but luckily enough, we battled through it. We got some locations open, and after about 18 months, I ended up, I'm trying to think, was it 18 months or even, about 18 months. 18 months I ended up buying into the business. The guy that hired me exited the business, and myself and another guy in the business and another guy, we ended up buying his shares. Yeah. Along with some shares from other partners also.
So it's just you two that basically effectively own it now? Or?
No, so now there's 4 partners in the business.
Okay.
There was 2 of us that was active in the business. One of them was an original founder, and another one is a silent partner.
And how is that side of business doing now? So you obviously have to shut all your doors at one point, but now you open again. Is business kind of booming again?
Business. It's everyone likes to say that business is coming back and it's doing really well, and that because COVID-19 hit, people still had to eat, and delivery business boomed. And I can tell you, like, first-hand experience from all angles of everything I do, it didn't. Like, you'd have landlords that would say, we're not going to give you rent relief because you're doing delivery. And what they don't understand is that, you know, when you have someone that sits in your restaurant and eats, you're getting 100% of the value of that check in your POS. Delivery, but when you do delivery, you're losing 30%, even 35% in cases. And that's with a restaurant in this climate that currently operates probably on single digits bottom line margins. That's suicide in the restaurant industry. So the business right now it's stable. We're striving to grow sales. Where we've got a couple of things in motion, and we will survive out this. How we come out of it and how we look afterwards will be a bit different, which will be revealed in the next months coming. But we will survive, and we're actually going to grow and expand. Because the biggest thing as well with Pokey Pokey, and this was also something I've learned, and this is, again, you don't know these things unless you actually have ran a business for a company and you've done it and you've seen it at first hand, or you've actually ran a business and you've actually made the mistakes. So what we did was we decided to go into expansion mode in Q4 of last year. So last year, in 2019, towards the end of the year, we signed a load of leases. We built a load of units. So what we did was we deployed all our cash reserves into bricks and mortars with the full intention of everything was going to be perfect, because who knew COVID-19 was coming? And then, like, if I tell you, like, we have 6 locations for Pokey Pokey. 2 of them locations essentially opened during COVID-19. Ouch. In Abu Dhabi, first bricks and mortar in Abu Dhabi Mall, prime location, front of the mall. We opened that during lockdown in delivery, because we said we couldn't wait any longer. We had to open the doors. Well, not open the doors, actually. Open the doors for delivery drivers. And then our flagship store, which is now in Al Wasl, which is our biggest unit, we opened that 2 weeks before lockdown. So it was like, I sit back sometimes and I go, everything was against us. It all hit, but everyone was in the same boat. Like, there's people out there that have worse stories.
And how do you find like the construction? Like, what was your experience? Because I suppose you've never been involved, apart from London days where you did the refits. How was your experience of working with fit-out companies here?
Oh, I love it. I do. Yeah, because my days of doing woodwork and engineering and technical drawing really kicks in. So, like, I walk in, I do all my sites myself. So, like, I'll go into a site, and this kind of comes more into one kitchen, it does. We can kind of pivot onto that a little bit. It's like one kitchen, we build out massive industrial kitchens that cost millions of dirhams to fit out.
Yeah, because those kitchens are, well, I mean, the most important part of any restaurant is probably the MEP, right?
Yeah.
And when you're creating just kitchens, there's a hell of a lot of MEP works that goes into that.
Yeah.
So you do everything yourself then? So you manage all the different trades?
So I look after, so in one kitchen, we hired a project manager because it was the first big site that I've ever done. I was like, I'll take on a project manager.
How big was it?
Well, the site's it's a 10,000 square foot unit. We've built out 5,000, and it's essentially it's $1 million fit out. So
where did you open it?
In Hesse Street.
Okay.
So Hesse, on the corner of Hesse and Al Khail. So we took a PM on for that just because the percentage of the PM costs.
Is that the one next to Deliveroo?
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's now Kitchen Street. You have one kitchen, Deliveroo Editions, and Sweetheart Kitchens all in a line.
Yeah.
We can talk about how that's impacted the local restaurant in the area. Pre these kitchens, which was only about 18 months ago, there was the restaurants with bricks and mortars were competing against each other. And then now with these 3 units there, we've brought in, between the 3 of us, we brought in excess of about 150 brands. Now, so when you open your Deliveroo app and you used to live beside restaurant ABC, that would pop up on your screen. You'd be like, well, you know what, they do okay, I'll order from them because it's the only thing around. Now the person that opens up, they see 150 different restaurants. We'll go into that in more detail.
Yeah.
So back to the question of fit out. Fit outs, the big thing in this country is that, you know, there is knowing your contractor. That's like, if I was going to give anyone advice, know your contractor, know who they are, know what they've done, make sure that you can trust the contractor, because they'll take a shortcut any chance that they get, and not in regards to safety, but just in finishes. Like, make sure you pay for you get what you pay for, and understand that sometimes upfront investments are the best investments you'll make. And when I say that, I refer to getting to, maybe before you award a job to a contractor, have an independent company do the designs, have an independent company do your bill of quantities and give you an average of the cost per line in the market, because otherwise you're going into your contractor blind, taking his word for it, and they'll pull a figure out of the sky.
I'm so glad you say that, because I always say to clients, the best way to and especially now, I think a lot of people are using COVID and they're cutting corners, and then they call you up and they say, oh, you know, can you come and fix this job because we've sacked off this contractor. And you say, well, you know, you should have really focused on the front end stuff. We don't fix people's mistakes. You know, we're a solution provider, but we provide solutions from scratch, not from taking over someone's mess. But yeah, like it's so many people cut corners. But I'm so glad that you say that and realize that, because although it's an initial upfront cost, it will save you hundreds of thousands, if not millions, later on down the line.
Yeah, and some people they look at it and go, why would I pay for that? It gets me nothing. I want to pay for the fit out.
Yeah.
But you could do it. You could pay someone simply, say with a BOQ and an MEP design done. You could pay someone 20,000 dirhams, and that could ultimately save you 100,000 with the contractor.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're like, I totally forgot as well that your 9 to 5 is in this.
Is that yeah?
So you know better than anyone. I hope you're not one of those that if I don't come with a BOQ, you're gonna say, this guy doesn't know, let's mark it up 40%.
No, exactly. No. I mean, the thing is that as well. I mean, and this was part I was going to come on to as well, because I do like to talk about it, because it's quite interesting to share with people. Because what we find a lot in this market, and I'm not going to focus on particular industries or companies, but a lot of people have a lot of money here, and they'll just have that bucket of cash and go, right, I want to open a restaurant, or I want to open a retail store, or even a hotel, and they all think that cutting corners is the cheapest price is the best price. But as you know, when it comes to operating something, this is not like going into a shop and buying a phone, or you can't just take it back when it doesn't work. You know, if that contractor is not a good contractor and doesn't pick up the phone, you've got leaks, you've got power issues, you've got HVAC issues, like loads of different things that, these things cost some, like say, hundreds of thousands, millions. But it's good that you, like I say, it's good that you emphasize on that and you focus on quality. And I think quality brands that do survive will do things properly.
I remember when COVID-19 kicked off, we with Poke. So with the ways we operate our businesses, the ways I operate business, it's very fair. So I'll give you an example. With Poke, we had to put all our staff immediately on a salary deduction, as a lot of companies did. And then, but in One Kitchen, which we'll talk about as we go along, that business was doing better. So we actually gave our staff an increase to help them get through the COVID-19, make sure that their families were okay in their home countries, and make sure that they had enough money to get around, because travel was now harder because buses and taxis and everything was getting clamped down on, and curfews. So I kind of gone off track here, but COVID-19, like businesses that failed, I agree with you, 90% of them were businesses that were probably going to fail anyways.
Yeah.
And out of that 90%, probably half of them were businesses that were just going to continue for the next few years and just throw money at the problem. And then the other half were just going to go bankrupt anyways.
Yeah.
But there is that 10%, fantastic restaurants, fantastic models, great people behind them, but everything like really did just hit them in the wrong spaces, and they weren't in the mood to gamble, and that's respectful, and they didn't want to have any chances of having liability and open up again in 6 months' time with a load of back rent to pay.
Yeah. Okay, so we've touched on Poke, the Poke brand. We haven't really touched much on the hospitality side, so let's talk about that brand very quickly, and then let's go on to the main focus, which is One Kitchen. So how did the hospitality brand come around?
So Poke? No, the Open Pot Hospitality.
Yeah.
So Open Pot Hospitality. So when I bought into Poke, I now kind of essentially, I had partners, but I essentially became my own boss.
Yeah.
So now I could start, spreading my wings a little bit and kind of deciding what I wanted to do. And Poke was obviously something that I was still running on a daily basis, but I was open to doing other things. So one of the things that what I started doing was kind of consultancy. So it was like helping people out that wanted to design a restaurant. Maybe they wanted to create a menu. They wanted to hire staff. They wanted training procedures, food safety procedures, the simple stuff that I found very easy to do, and I could turn around quite quickly, and it was kind of a side hustle where I could bring in extra income, and nothing wrong, because I was now my own boss, and I had an agreement, understanding that I'd make sure that Poke kept running, but I could do other things as well.
Yeah.
So why I started Open Pot Hospitality was, as I went through talking to different clients that I worked with and helped them out, and most of it was charged at next to nothing, or most of it wasn't even charged, because I just enjoy talking to people and helping out where I can. And still to today, like even last week, I had like a 2-hour conversation with someone, and I basically gave them a full plan to roll out a brand step by step.
Yeah.
But why I started Open Pot Hospitality was because there were so many companies here that I heard so many bad stories about, where they were just overcharging for the simplest of services. So if you look at Open Pot Hospitality today, and you look at the guys that are involved in doing day-to-days, there's the reason why it was called Open Pot was because if you come to me with 100 dirhams and you say, I want to improve my food cost, we won't turn you away and say that, okay, we'll do a food cost analysis for you for 5,000 dirhams or something like that. We'll say that for that 100 dirhams, we'll give you a tool. You'll do it yourself though.
Yeah.
So there's 3 ways that we look at it. You do it yourself means that we give you something. It could be something as simple as a stock control sheet, where you just have to fill in your ingredients every day, and then at the end of the month you can see where your stock's going. Or we'll do it with you, meaning that we'll supply the tools and somebody will come and work with you to do it, so it keeps the cost down. Or we'll do it for you. So you decide. Whereas the consultancy companies, and not all of them, but some of them here, they offer one and one only. We do it for you. And when you do it for someone, of course your expenses go up, and you charge rates that are, not possible for everyone to pay. And especially when you're going in as a consultancy, you're not going in to help companies like Al-Shaya. You're going in to help moms and pops, small SMEs, guys that are trying to start it up. The cash is very important. And these bigger consultancy companies, they sell them the dream. yeah, give us 50,000 dirhams, we'll make you an instant success.
Yeah.
But that's not the truth.
Yeah.
So that's why Open Pot Hospitality started.
And is a lot of your stuff that goes there like all inbound, or do you go out and find them?
It's all word of mouth. So it's got a website, www.openpothospitality.com.
This is why we do this.
It should be going through there right now. It's all word of mouth, and it's not everyone that's, even if you go on to this. So there was a complete different mind frame when I got into this. I didn't want to start this as a business. I wanted to start this as giving something back.
Yeah.
So even if you go on to Open Pot Hospitality, there's a recruitment side to it. There's a recruitment side where you can upload your CV. There's some available jobs that are on there. You can apply, and I pass them on. I don't charge for recruitment charges. There's also an option that if you are someone, and when I look back at myself for this. So when I was back in Al Shaya, and I'm not telling people to do this, get permission from your sponsor. If I was back in Al Shaya and someone said to me, James, on your off day, I'll give you 2 or 3 hours of consultancy work, and I'll be very straight with you. Whatever they pay, I give you 80%. I keep 20% as a fee. So if you go onto the website, you can actually put yourself forward as a consultant part-time, and it's a side hustle. So it could be just putting data together, designing menus. You could be a chef, and someone turns around and says, I want a new sauce made. I turn around and go, okay, are you interested? This is what I paid. Kind of like Fiverr of F&B consulting, but vetted through me. Yeah. So your identity doesn't necessarily have to be disclosed, but if for certain things it would have to be, or it'd be done in confidence, and you'd go and roll it out.
That's good. It's you creating, basically, and I think that's most successful businesses do. You create something that's A, flexible, and B, what people want, right? I mean, let's say sometimes you go into a place or wherever it may be, or a business model, it's like they offer you one service, and it's like, well, can I just take this? And like, no, so creating that flexibility is a key thing. Creating a want,
Yeah, and it's and that's one of the limitations in this country, is that sometimes, and trust me, from the leadership, it's not that problem, but from company, and when I say leadership, I mean the government. They're very creative. But the companies that run here, sometimes they're a bit old school, and it's their way or no way. So you use the word creativity. It's like when I was signing leases for Pokey, or even any lease that I sign, even with One Kitchen, the first thing I sit down at the table, and even with the malls, the guys like at EMAR and MAF and these guys, I'll sit down and I go, guys, how creative can we get? And up until about 2-3 years ago, COVID is great for this though, to be one silver lining. 2-3 years ago, and up until pre-COVID, it was like, this is the rent, this is the turnover. If you don't like it, we have 10 more people to fill the space, which they don't, but they won't flex on it. So I was like, but that doesn't make sense. And they're like, yes, because you'll definitely turn over 1 million a month, or 1 million a year, or whatever it is, in turnover. So I was like, okay, so if you're confident in that, yes, we are. Okay, then put me on an equivalent revenue share based on that 1 million, and you'll get your rent. No, we can't do that. So COVID-19, they were eating their own words, obviously. But the COVID-19 now has put a perspective on that, is that, now it is time to get creative, and you need to work with your tenants in regards to that. So that's how Open Pot Hospitality, and that started about a year ago, and it just kind of ticks along. And there's no full-time employees. It's just ad hoc work. And if something comes in, we take every job that comes in. We haven't turned one down yet. And we just aim to help people at a reasonable price. And most of it, to be honest, is most people I meet, I have a 30-minute conversation with them, and they never come back to me to look for services. They just say, it's okay, James. After that talk, we actually figured that it was actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
We don't need to spend money. I'm like, no problem. Happy to help.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that those things, again, it's I think a lot of people, or a lot of businesses here, don't want to help. Whereas if you help, even if it doesn't work out, they'll turn around and go, do you know what? I spoke to this guy James, and he was really useful, and then that might land you an even bigger contract. Who knows? But it all comes around at some point. So main focus.
One kitchen.
This is what we class as the cloud kitchen, right?
Yeah, so cloud kitchens, dark kitchens, delivery only kitchens. Yeah. There's many names for them. Some companies have even taken the names on as their company names. So One Kitchen, One kitchen. How does it start, I suppose?
Well, first of all, do you charge massive fees?
No, our goal with one kitchen, and this is kind of, again, back to everything I do. I don't do things, everything I do is with a passion, and I don't do them unless I believe that I've got a passion for it.
Yeah.
And listen, I moved to the UAE with less than probably £1,000 in saving. So I came to the UAE with £1,000 with the promise of a job, because it's 24, you don't save a lot, and you spend a lot when you earn it. With the promise of a job, and everything I've done has kind of taken a step to a step to a step. And there were certain things that I believe that prevented me from maybe getting to different steps faster. And them barriers, I look back and I try to remove them barriers. So we don't charge massive fees. We have to charge fees, and we make a profit because we're a business, and we have multiple shareholders that also need to get a return because they invested their money into our belief in what we could do. So no, we don't charge massive fees. In fact, the knowledge that you get from having access to us also is a benefit in itself.
And how many sites do you have now?
So we currently have one location. So we opened our first location in Business Bay, and Business Bay was a pilot model. So again, it was a restaurant that had closed down. They moved their location from one area to another area, and so it was already fitted out. Took over the unit, took on the lease, and we covered the windows essentially. Did about a week's renovation inside from smaller contractors, managed that myself, and turned it into a dark kitchen that could fit four brands.
Yeah.
And that was a success, and it worked out very well. We had to close that location though because it wasn't part of our bigger scale plan, and because it wasn't built purposely as a dark kitchen, and our model consumes a lot of electricity and gas, and there's certain elements of our kitchen design that have to be there. It kind of became more of a bad point on the business view, the picture of the business, rather than a good one. So we decided to close it down earlier this year.
Okay, so then you have the one that's in Hesse Street.
Now we have one in Hesse Street, which we purposely built and fitted out as a dark kitchen to fit our model, and that is running 100% occupancy and flowing. So there's a couple of different models. So I'll talk about the two other models that are there, and then I'll come back to ours. So there's three in total that we've identified. The first model is the franchise type of model, where they take your IP being your recipes, your menu, your brand name, and they get you to train them how to prepare your dishes. So it's a franchise of delivery rights, essentially. And what they do is they cook the food for you with their chefs, their staff. They buy the ingredients.
When you say they, your staff?
No, with the other model. Okay. So not our model. So our model is, we'll speak about that last.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So this is a franchise model. Guys, and there's nothing wrong with any of the models. All the models, they work for different types of people, different types of businesses. So we can name the companies. It's Kitopi is one of the ones that operate in that space. Also, Icon and Food to Go. So these three companies, they take your brand over from you. They help you expand, and basically you give them the right to sell your food on your behalf.
So basically like you give them the franchise and they pay you X amount.
Yeah, and you collect a royalty. So there's nothing wrong with the model. It's very good for a brand that, say, is built mainly on franchise, is built mainly on delivery, and have a menu that doesn't need 20 steps per dish, that you can assemble it quite easily with run-of-the-mill products.
Yeah.
So they work for guys also, that companies that that want to enter new markets, but they don't want to put their own footprint there. They want to put the brand footprint, but not their own footprint, and they don't want to find a franchise partner. Yeah. So the Kitopi model, Food to Go, and Icon model, these guys, they enable that. So it's there for people to be able to access. Then the second model then is the aggregators. So the aggregators themselves are involved in this. So you got Deliveroo that have kitchens. You have Delivery Hero. Delivery Hero is the company that owns Talabat and Zomato in the UAE. and carriage before it closed down in the UAE. And they operate kitchens. So what they do is they do a semi-real estate model where they give you space, and you bring your own equipment, you bring your own staff, you bring your own food, and you go exclusive on their delivery platforms. Because the big thing with these delivery aggregators, first of all, they're not profitable because they're spending loads of money on marketing. So when restaurants complain about giving 30% up, these guys that are taking the 30% still don't turn a profit off that 30%. They want market share because that's where their future profitability comes. So they want to bring brands into their kitchens that are established brands that do a minimum order count per week, and that the aggregator knows will bring benefits for them. So it rules out entrepreneurially startups. It rules out small SMEs that can't meet the quota, or it rules out brands that just can't afford to be on one platform only, that need to be on all the platforms. And they charge then a revenue share based on your volume. But they've already basically planned that your volume is going to be high because they've handpicked which brands get in.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there's our model, which is the pure real estate model. There's ourselves in this one kitchen. There's another company here in the UAE, Kitchen Park, they're in it. And there's another two also, Kitchen Nation and Express Kitchens. Zia will love that I mentioned Express Kitchens.
Who's Zia?
Zia is the founder of Express Kitchens.
Okay, so you guys are all friends, yeah?
Well, I would never say I have enemies. We all listen. There's enough of the market. There's no secret to what we do. It's how we do it. So like in regards to the competitors and direct competitors to us, like they're direct competitors from a consumer's point of view, but from my point of view, they're not. We all have little things that are different. How we run our kitchens, how we enable our brands to operate, barriers that we help remove. So it's I would never, every tenant that comes, every future partner that comes to one kitchen and says we're interested in space, I will recommend every other kitchen in the UAE for them to view. I will give them phone numbers, I will give them emails, I will direct them how to get there, because I'm confident in how I run my business, and I believe that we provide a service that is I won't say it's better than everyone else's. Yeah. Everyone does a great job, but I'm sure the ways that I run my business I'll always have a full house.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into detail then again. Okay, so what is it that you said then? You're confident in what you offer. So what is it that you offer?
So we offer, first of all, so one kitchen, so what we do is we do the pure real estate. We give you a kitchen ready to go, basically, apart from some small wares.
Supply all the equipment.
We supply all the big items. So your cookers, your grills, your fryers, your freezers, your chillers, them big ticket value items that, that create a barrier financially for people to come into one of the other models, for example, where you have to provide your own equipment.
Yeah.
So and then
is it just like an open kitchen or is it closed kitchen?
It's semi-closed. So we design our kitchens is we design them that you can take a small space in a room, but if you actually have bigger operations or a bigger appetite for growing quicker, you can take two spaces. Yeah. So one room that we give is actually for two tenants, but one tenant can rent the whole room.
Yeah. Okay. And when it comes to brands, what brands are you working with?
Brands, we have loads of brands. Like as I said, we have the corporate guys, we have the SMEs, we have the entrepreneur startups, we have the whole.
Do you not want to say who they are?
I will. I'll give them all a shout out. I don't want to say one and not say 50.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's just pick at random from different cuisines.
Okay.
What brands you work with?
Okay, I hope I remember these. So let's throw out some. I'll throw out some. Listen, first one, Pizza Express. So Pizza Express works out of our kitchen. So if you live in Arabian Ranches, JLT, JV, actually maybe not JLT serviced by the JLT branch, but Barsha and Motor City, Sport City, your pizza from Pizza Express comes from our kitchen. For fried chicken, we've got Jollibee in our kitchen. Okay. So next, better than McDonald's, let's say, because they're our partner. Yeah. As we've got, what else have we got? You love a Mexican. We got burritos. We have a Tecado. Yeah. We have your healthy side. You got Yoga. You have entrepreneur, great example of an entrepreneur, Dan's Home Cooked Food.
I know Dan. Does he work out your kitchen?
Yes, he does indeed. So Dan came and said that he was going to bring the best fish and chips to Dubai, and I looked at him, I was like, yeah, Dan. He launched, and he's a success, and he's brought great fish and chips, the best fish and chips.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't know Dan personally, but I'm in the same football supporters group as his dad. His dad was waffling on about, my son makes these great meat and potato pies, and the team that I support is a team called Stoke City, for my sins, and basically meat and potato pies are one of those things that's very popular in Staffordshire, but nowhere else in the world. Anyway, and his dad's like, look, listen, these are all homemade, going to taste amazing. Delivered them, and they tasted phenomenal. And then next thing you know, he's getting blown up on Brits in Dubai and stuff like that. And that's the stories you love to hear and love to partner with, because it's such a good story.
Yeah, and Dan now is, he's on his way to location number 2. He is. We don't have location number 2, so he's looking for somewhere else to go. But he's expanding, and this is a guy that was
doing it all himself at the beginning.
Yeah. So like up until like a year ago, I think he was in recruitment. So he was working for a recruitment agency. He was.
Yeah.
I don't know how Dan worked in a recruitment agency. But it's amazing. Like, you know, and we removed them barriers. So we let someone, like, he came in because the equipment that he uses is our standard line, like ovens and grills and fryers and chillers and freezers. He was able to just basically put down his initial deposit on the space and hire some staff. We offer a licensing umbrella, so you don't even need a trade license to start with us as an entrepreneur. You can come in and we can give you offer you a licensing umbrella as additional, and basically it legally covers you, and you can hire staff, you can train them as your own, you can get your accounts with food suppliers, you can sign up to Deliveroo, Talabat, Zomato, Careem, all these guys, and like if you really want to put your head down, you can from the day you have an idea to the day that you serve your first meal in a delivery bag, you could do it in 2 weeks at a cost of probably less than 40,000 dirhams.
Yeah, that's impressive. And like you say, it's one of those things that, you know, 6 years ago, and this is a good thing about this place, is that 6 years ago when you landed, like, there wasn't. I don't remember seeing Talabat too much. I don't remember seeing Deliveroo.
Yeah,
and now there's this whole industry based around that, and I think that's one of the good things is you focus on those areas where you go, right, I can save people money and I can help these people and help brands like, you know, Dan's Home Cooked Foods. I'll have to get him on the show, to be fair.
You will. Yeah. I think actually he'd be a great candidate. Like, he's in the middle of it now. Yeah. So for him, we're all in the middle of it, to be honest. But he's really in early days. So like for him, every day is a learning point. Yeah. Like Dan, I'd like to think that I help Dan out too with just advice. So like I go into One Kitchen because that's my laser focus at the moment. And I walk through One Kitchen and like I'll talk to our partners. Sometimes the owners are there. So Dan be there a lot himself. He does because obviously he's fully committed to this entrepreneurial startup. And I'll see Dan doing something. I'll be like, Dan, you know, if you did it like this, it would change. And next thing he'd change, and the next day he'd be like, yeah, James, that worked. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And just little things. But there are things that it's not because Dan won't find them out or he's not a good business person.
Sometimes you just need that outside.
Yes, you just need to be told, actually, this could save you 10 hours work if you just actually do this. Yeah. I'm not on about the chef side of things. I'm on about just little things like with the delivery platforms, with the suppliers, with staff, with equipment, just generally getting your business up and running.
No, and like the whole idea of One Kitchen, was this something that you just stumbled upon based on your own need yourself? Yes.
So One Kitchen all started out where I was looking for Poke. One of the ways that we were expanding on delivery. And I was approaching people that had restaurants, full service restaurants with a kitchen out the back. And I would ask them, can I rent 15 square meters, 10 square meters of your kitchen out the back? Most of them would tell me, you're crazy. What are you doing? And some of them would say yes. So I was on the hunt, and we had successfully launched a few of these because with Pokey Pokey we operate a central kitchen, and we prep everything fresh daily. We do, and then our in locations are mainly assembly points. Yeah. So think of Subway but fresher. So I was in the midst of looking for another location, and some like-minded people were kind of on the other side, and was like, you know, these delivery kitchens, what you're looking for is essentially a delivery kitchen. I was like, yeah. And they were like, you know, they're kicking off in the US, they're kicking off in the UK, and they were. And there was also one here, Kitchen Nation was operating here, and Delivery Editions was starting out, it was. And they were like, why not just rent a restaurant that's closed down and put your brand in there, and we'll rent the rest of the space out to other people. So let's do a back engineer it. So you'll be the first tenant, and we'll find other people that are like-minded to you and put them in there. So we got that location in Business Bay, and we actually signed a deal at that time with Uber Eats within the first week while renovating the unit, because we reached out to them, go, do you know any brands that might want to come into a dark kitchen, because they're a delivery platform, so they know who's looking to expand on delivery. And they were like, you know what, we are actually looking for a kitchen. And we were like, okay. They were like, we're looking for a pilot model. I was like, well, we have a pilot model, that's what it is. Not knowing it was going to be a pilot model, just thinking it was going to be a delivery point for a Pokey Pokey.
Say yes, worry later.
Exactly. Figure it out later. Don't never say no.
Yeah.
And they came along and did their numbers, and they were like, we'll rent all the spaces from you, and we'll put our exclusive Uber Eat brands in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh damn, well, Pokey Pokey at that time wasn't exclusive. I was like, well, where am I going to put Pokey? And then I found another place to put Pokey. Pokey went there, operated business out of that space, and this now became one kitchen.
Yeah.
And one kitchen, then it grew in its storm, and the more that the US was kicking off with kitchens, and the more other kitchens were starting to expand, we were like, well, why aren't we doing the same? And then that's where we went to market to raise money to build our flagship currently in Hesse Street.
So you mentioned it cost you $1 million to fit out.
Yeah, it's a $1 million project.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, $1 million project. Now, I can't imagine somebody working at Alshire and Poke was able to save $1 million.
The bonus was really good in that show. No,
it's on a serious note, and I think going back to the whole school part of things, this is like a valuable lesson that nobody. I mean, if you told me here's a business model, go and raise money for this business model, I wouldn't know where to start. And I think that's something typical. That's a very good life lesson to learn. How did you do that? How did you learn to go and say, listen, give? I mean, I'm guessing it's obviously more than one person, right?
Yeah,
your investors.
It's multiple. So it wasn't just me. I have another co-founder in One Kitchen, Majid, and he did a lot of because when One Kitchen kicked off, it was like I took care of the operation side originally, and so basically doing the fit out, getting our brands in, making sure everything operated, making sure that it was a kitchen.
Yeah.
And then Majid was looking after the fundraising, and then we'd come together because obviously the potential investors would need to understand what the operations is, and so we put everything together and presented. But the most important thing, like advice to anyone that's trying to raise money for an idea that they have, back engineer it again. So if you have money, cash, and you're going to invest it, what do you want from your money?
Yeah.
You want a return.
Yeah.
So you need to first of all understand what's the return. How much does money cost? Not everyone will understand that, but there's a cost to money, and that's when you borrow money. It's how much you pay to borrow it.
Yeah.
So when you go to an investor, you need to understand the types of investors that you're talking to and go, what's the cost of their money?
Yeah.
Then you also need to understand then what the investors you're getting into versus your business model, what the risk is involved, and how do you make sure that you can make someone feel more comfortable that they're not going to lose their money, because that's another element. An investor could lose their money. So the main two things that when you are going to raise money, back engineer it. Every investor wants to make money on their money, and they want to feel reassured that they're not going to lose their money. So what you do is you take them 2 points and you work out how your model fits them 2 points. So how you can present your business, and be honest, does your business deliver that, or do you need to get family and friends together and get money from people that you know that believe in you? Because there's an element to this too. So when you're raising money, like sometimes like you'll talk to investors, they understand the model, but you have to understand that, and as I mentioned earlier, there's no barrier to someone with a load of money to come and open a load of dark kitchens and copy the design that we've done to an extent. But the people that run the business and the people that are the business, that's probably 70% of what investors invest into.
Yeah.
So with me, like it's like when I meet investors or I talk to people, I like to think they know that I know what I'm talking about. They understand that my vision of where this business is going to be, I'm laser focused on that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that I not only protect their investment, I'm going to give them a healthy return on their money also.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And your investors are seeing returns already?
Yeah. Well, they're not seeing returns, but we're one of the only dark kitchens that I know the numbers of that are actually profitable.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of kitchens out there that don't turn a profit. Some of them, such as Deliveroo's kitchens and Delivery Heroes kitchens, them guys, they don't essentially look to turn a profit on a normal P&L because they look at it as a marketing expense also. So for them to have these brands exclusively in their kitchens and they give them discounted delivery fees and they build it in on a different mechanism, so they'll never know if their kitchen's profitable or not on a real level. And then you got the guys that do the franchises. Them guys are trying to turn profitable, but it's very difficult because it's from their side, they have a lot of overhead. Yeah. They're hiring so many people.
And they've got to pay out to, you've got to pay out for so many different avenues of their business, right? So
yeah, there's loads of costs for them, and their cost. If the brands tomorrow morning all stop performing, their costs remain. So their rent for all their kitchens, all their staff, their chefs, their higher management, all them, their salaries have to get paid.
Yeah.
You can't turn around and say, we're not going to pay you this month because brand A, B, and C didn't do good numbers.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you're working on a work contract, if you put the work in, you must get your paycheck.
Yeah.
But they are striving for profitability. I hope they get there because it's the stronger that the delivery industry gets in either of the models, it benefits all the models.
Yeah.
And at the same time, so an interesting point as well is that, so like being one kitchen, with all the models that are in the kitchen industry, all the models have two things in common. They all need kitchens. So no matter what they are, they need fitted kitchens. And number two, they all produce deliveries out the door for home delivery.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who's cooking it in the background or how it's done or what kitchen it's coming out of. It all delivers the same result.
Yeah.
So being one kitchen, because we are essentially the real estate, we actually provide kitchen space also for some of the guys that do the franchise model. Because if they're taking on other people's brands, they're not interested in building out kitchens because that's real estate. They're not a real estate game. Yeah. They rent our kitchen because that enables them to expand faster. It enables them to put less money into capex and more money into marketing and technology to help them systemize their procedures of production. Yeah. And it's a win-win situation. So the better they do, the better we do also.
Yeah. So what's the next steps for One Kitchen?
One Kitchen, the next step is to expand. COVID-19 slowed us down, not because of terrible numbers or terrible profits or anything like that. We were at the mercy of our tenants. Obviously had a lot going on, so some of them fell out, so our books did take a little hit for a couple of weeks. But the main thing was everyone's unsure of what's happening with COVID-19. Yeah. On top of that, people are a little bit unsure about what the kitchen industry is and the dark kitchen industry is. So it slowed down our fundraising. But all going good. By the end of this year, we do plan to announce a big rollout. And when we announce our next rollout, the vision behind the rollout, before we announce the rollout, the vision of the company is we are going to be the biggest kitchen player globally in our model. Yeah. And that is our focus. And if that means 10,000, 20,000 kitchens globally, that's what it will be.
Yeah, nice. Now, we'll have to wrap this up because obviously I think we've gone on for... So then, what's the time now?
It's 10 to 8.
10 to 8, so wow, we've nearly been going for 2 hours. So we've obviously shared a lot of insights, but if you could kind of give one piece of advice, obviously the podcast is called The Recipe to Success.
Yes.
So tell me, what is your recipe to success?
Recipe to success. Okay. There's so much. We could talk for another hour. Never look at...
Sure, I understand.
Even Siri doesn't understand. The recipe to success. So don't look at something one way only, first of all.
Yeah.
Look at things from multiple angles.
Yeah.
Believe in your vision, but don't be hard-headed to not change how you get there.
Yeah.
So some people go out and they go, well, I'm not going to start a restaurant because I don't have $1 million dirhams to invest into a full-fledged restaurant. So what's the point? You can look at it at different angles, and go at it different ways. You'll still get your end goal because if you're successful and your vision is true and your work is put in, you'll get to your vision. You got to put the work in. There's no way to avoid that. Yeah. That's plain and simple. You can side hustle it, have your 9-to-5 job, but remember, a 9-to-5 job means now you have also got a 5-to-9 job. So make sure that you understand that. Yeah. That it's not something that you think you can just throw savings at because someone told you that there's barriers removed that you're going to be an instant success. Your time matters. Yeah. And stick with it. The people that stick with it, obviously with making the right decisions along, but you're going to meet a lot of obstacles. And if you're doing it right, you're going to have, as an entrepreneur, if you're doing it right, you're going to have a lot of moments where you're going to stop and you're going to stay awake at night and you're going to go, how can I pay my rent next month?
Yeah.
Should I give this up and go back and work a 9-to-5 job on a salary?
Wow.
That's the
a lot of people are not willing to do that, right?
It's scary.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I can be very honest, like, to this day, like, I'll still, like, lay there at night and go, what do I do next? Like, not in a bad way, not under panic, but understanding what could happen. Don't procrastinate, but don't take granted how things can flip so fast.
Yeah.
So be prepared for the rainy day. Don't think because if you launch something and you have instant success and you get a load of money in the first month that you should go out and buy yourself a Ferrari. Because in 6 months' time, when your business gets a bit lower, that Ferrari has got big running costs, and more than likely a debt to be serviced.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, keep it simple. Be true to yourself. Stick to your vision. Put the hours in. Don't be hard-headed, but stick to your vision, and you'll get there. And don't ever use money as a barrier, because money is not a barrier. Like, I could run through, like, if you want to do like a quick 10 minutes. We won't do it, but if you want to do like a quick point by point how to start a brand, I could give you everything to start a brand for about 5,000 dirhams.
Yeah.
Not even 5,000. That's the luxury role. Like, people look at it and go, oh, how do I create a website? Go to Fiverr, go to Canva. $12 a month, best investment I make. I still use it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm currently building websites on there now, because remember also, unless your e-commerce website's dead, you don't need a website for a restaurant. You need a landing page. You can create that yourself. You just need somewhere where you can send people to click on to where you need to send them next.
Yeah.
Even for e-commerce, to be honest. There's no barrier that money can resolve.
Yeah.
So, like, if you are working, like, obviously don't come and say that I've 0 dirhams, because that's a problem. But you can like, the first thing I'll give someone a starting point, right? I'll give someone 2 points to start with. If you actually believe that you want to start a brand, and you have the recipes, it could be your grandma's, it could be your mother's, it could be your own, and you believe that your brand is the food is good, Go on to godaddy.com, find your domain. So www.grandmasfood.com, whatever it is, buy it. It will cost you about $10 or less.
Yeah.
From that domain, create your Gmail account.
Yeah.
So your name, I'm James at pokepoke.com, James at joinonekitchen.com. Create your domain. Create your company, your brand logo on Fiverr. Spend $10. You get that far. You now have a domain that you can put a website on. You have an email that you can reach out to people on, and you now have a brand logo that you can use for your business card. And from there on, everything else is a flow.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like they flow out. Like right now, I've got 10 brands in the UAE, food brands. And 2 years ago I had one, and now I have 10. And trust me, as you go through each one, it just, you look back and you go, oh my God, that first time I spent 2 hours trying to figure out how to link my domain to my Gmail. And now it's done in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, listen, the thing is, I would love to share more and more and more, but do you know what? If you find this useful, which I'm sure from all the information that's been provided in this podcast, go and visit James. You know, go on, plug the website again.
Find me. Go on to www.joinonekitchen.com, and on there you'll find the type form. Fill it out, send me your details, and myself or someone else will get in contact. If not, you'll find me on LinkedIn. If you're a real entrepreneur and you really want to be an entrepreneur, you want to prove it, you'll be able to find me on LinkedIn, Google. You'll find me. Yeah. You'll find my direct number if you really want to.
Yeah, like I did. But no, on a serious note, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
No worries, it's a pleasure.
It was very useful. Loads of information. I can't wait to listen back on this and then also share it amongst the audience. Don't worry, we will do all of the we'll tag all of the companies that James is a part of, so you can visit them, check them out, any information that you want. And also thank you very much to our new sponsors, Suited and Booted. Go check out their suits as well. Now, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's do the COVID fist pump.
Yes.
And again, thanks very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
What a podcast. I know I say this every week, but my God, I really enjoyed sitting next to James and just picking his brain on his general journey through life and business. So I really hope you took some value from it as well. If you did, make sure you give us a like and feel free to share any of the content with your friends, because without sharing the word and spreading the love, we wouldn't be here today. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Suited and Booted. Your new showroom looks absolutely immense, and for anyone listening in that's based in Dubai, go check these boys out. You can be a guy, girl, child, whoever you are. They make suits for everybody and anybody. And also make sure you go and check us out on our Instagram page, the Recipe to Success podcast, as well as our YouTube page, which is also the Recipe to Success podcast. I look forward to next week's guest, who is the CEO and founder of Noir Agency. The guest is Anthony Scott Logan, and he has been traveling around Europe for the last 5 months. So I really look forward to sharing that story with you. Wishing you all a wonderful week, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.